Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's a recording of a class given by Srila Prabhupada in June 1973 in Mayapur. Canto 1, Chapter 10, and Text 14. That is a short lecture, and Lord willing, we might go to the next one, which is also another short one. So depending on how the time goes, we may do 2 lectures today. But we'll start with text 14. So without further ado, we'll start the class. Hare Krishna.
Nudgalad-bashpam, Nudgalad-bashpam, Utkandya Devaki Sute, Utkandya Devaki Sute, Niryatya Gara no Bhadram, Niryatya Gara no Bhadram, Iti Syad Bandavastriya, Iti Syad Bandavastriya.
You can practice this diacritic mark. English transliteration is there. It is not very difficult. Simply if you practice twice, thrice, 4 times, it will come exactly the pronunciation. You have to learn the diacritic mark, then it will be all right. What meaning?
Nirundhan, checking with great difficulty. Udgalat, overflowing. Bashpam, tears. Utkantyat, because of great anxiety. Devaki Sute, unto the son of Devaki. Niryati, having come out. Ogarat, from the palace. Naha, not. Abhadram, inauspiciousness. Iti, thus. Syat, may happen. Bandhava, relative. Striyaha, ladies. Translation. The female relatives, whose eyes were flooded with tears out of anxiety for Krishna, came out of the palace. They could only stop their tears with great difficulty. They feared that tears would cause misfortune at the time of departure.
Ladies, generally, they are very much apt to shed tears in ecstatic moment. So, Krishna was going from Hastinapur, and all of them, all the Pandavas, not only ladies, the men also, they are very, very much affected. We have already discussed in the previous verses. Especially the ladies, they could not check their tears forcibly coming out. But at the same time, they are thinking that Krishna is going, everything must be auspicious. There may not be something inauspicious. So, they were in a very perplexed position. Tears were coming by force and they wanted to check it so that there may not be any inauspicity in the matter of Krishna's departure. This is the picture. So, these are all symptoms of love for Krishna. That is the highest perfection of life. To shed tears for Krishna. Jugaitam nimishena chakshusha pravishaitam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught us this method of worship in separation. Vipralambha seva. Not that, oh, I have seen yesterday, last night, I have seen Krishna, he was snatching my cloth. These are sahajiyas. Actually, our worship should be in separation. The Goswamis also taught us like that. He Radhi Brajadevi Ke Chalalite, He Krishna Kutaha. They in the Vrindavan remain authorized persons. They are also searching after Krishna. They never said that we have got Krishna. Never said. He Radhi Brajadevi Ke Chalalite, He Nanda Suna Kutaha, Sri Govardhana Padapatale, Kalindi Bane Kutaha, Ghosantaviti Khedai Mahabhuvalo. simply khedai mahavibhulu. They were lamenting in separation. Bande rupa sanatanam raghujugo Sri Jiva Gopal. So this is the process of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's worship. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was falling down on the water. Oh, I could not see Krishna. When he was Grihastha, he was simply consulting with mother. Mother, I could not realize Krishna. What shall I do? Where shall I go? Mother said, my dear son, why you are impatient? Everything will be all right in due course. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving indication that I must leave home. Mother was also understanding that this boy wants to leave us. That was another perplexed position. So, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching. Jugaitam nimishena chakshusha pravishaitam sunnaitam jagat sarvam govinda virahena me. Govinda virahena. In separation from Govinda, I am thinking one moment as 12 years. Some of you or all of us have got this experience. If we want something very, very eagerly, then every moment becomes a long time. Oh, it is not yet received, it is not yet received. It is not yet done. Jugaitam nimishena. Nimish, a moment. A twinkling of an eye, that is called nimish. That appears to be 12 years. The gopis could not tolerate even twinkling of eyes. They were condemning the Creator. The Creator does not know the art of creating. Why He has created this twinkling of eyes so that it is disturbing us from seeing Krishna. Seeing Krishna and the twinkling of eyes, that is natural. So the gopis did not like it. So why He has created this? He does not know the art of creation. This is love. Juga, they say. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tested the gopis' feeling. Sri Chaitanyakha prakatam adhuna taddayam chekkamaktam. Radha Krishna pranaya vikiti alladini shakti. Krishna, when he wants to enjoy, he is absolute, supreme person, spirit, absolute, the supreme spirit. So, for spiritual enjoyment in this material world, great saintly persons, sages, they give up all material enjoyment just to test what is spiritual enjoyment, spiritual life, Brahmanubhuti. They give up everything. Tapasa brahmacharya, by austerity, brahmacharya, jamena, niyamena, tyagena, satta saucha bhyam. So many processes they adopt for tasting a little Brahmanubhuti. Ithang Brahma Sukhanubhutya Dasangatanang Paradaivati. So Sukadeva Goswami said that here the Krishna here is playing with the cowherd's boys. Who is he? Ithang Satang Brahma Sukhanubhutya. The great sages, saintly person who are trying to test the spiritual realization. That is here. He is playing as cowherd boy. dasangatanang paradayavate. And those who are devotees, for them, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maya sitanang naradar. And those who are Maya sita, they are thinking this Krishna is ordinary human child. Sadhang vijarhu kritapunna punya. So, with this boy, transcendental Krishna, cowherd boy, the other boys who are playing, they are not ordinary men. Kritapunna punya. They accumulated pious activities life after life for many, many thousands and millions of lives. Now they have got the opportunity to play with Krishna. So this Krishna consciousness movement is very serious and important. Here are the signs how they love Krishna. One side that they cannot check the tears coming out, Krishna is going out. Another side, oh, if I say tears, then there may be inauspicity. How much perplexity is. Two sides, dilemma between the horns of Srila and charities. That is the position. The lover, intense love creates such situation. As Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited. Jugayitam nimishina, chakshusha pravisha, sunnayitam jagat sat. Govinda virahina. Without seeing Govinda, the whole world is vacant. This is love. Let me try to become Krishna conscious. If it is done, all right. If it is not done, I shall remain in my position. What is the loss? Not like that. One must be so eager that without Krishna consciousness, one should become mad. One should become mad. That is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching. Separation, not direct contact. Direct contact is not possible. Neither that is the way of worshipping by the method of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is Sahajyava. I am talking with Krishna. Krishna is snatching my cloth. There is a book one lady has written, his experience, that Krishna comes, he talks with her and snatches her cloth. She has written openly. But this is not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's way. There is one gentleman, Mr. Rai, in Pune, and she has got also a woman. Also, everyone must have a woman. Parakya. This is Sahajyava. This is Sahajyava. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never said, this is the Parakya Rasa. One should have one woman. No. He observed complete sannyas life. Rather, there was very, very severe, rigid restriction about women. Now, these Sahajyas, they are going on in the name of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Aul, Baul, Katta, Vajar, Nara, Darvish, Sahajya, Sakhi, Veki, like that, so many. They are apasampradaya. Real Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sampradaya is that he should be feeling like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, separation. Not Sambho, Vipralamba. Vipralamba Siva. Oh, I am so wretched. I could not serve Krishna. How I can see Krishna? It is not possible. In this way, that is the teaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But even though I do not see him, neither it is possible for me to see him. Because what I am? I'm an insignificant person. Why Krishna come and see me? This is right. Why shall I aspire after seeing Krishna? What qualification I have got? This is bhajan. This is bhajan. Why should I be proud that now I shall see Krishna? What I am? That is the teaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Aslishya vapadartang pinastamam marmahatang karotuba adarsana. Adarsana. Without giving me audience, you kill me, you break my heart. Still you are my Lord, you are my worshipful Lord. Nobody else. This is love. This is love. Ashen Krishna golai diva, nale bheje khabo. Not like that. Krishna may not come. I may not see Krishna for thousands and thousands of lives. I may rot in the hellish condition of life for many, many births. That doesn't matter. Still I cannot give up Krishna consciousness. This is required. I may be sent to hell, heaven, it doesn't matter. What qualification I have got that I want to see back to home, back to Godhead? It is not so easy thing. So why should I be sorry for that? I should be happy even in the hell simply by thinking of Krishna. That is what. That is what. That is Krishna consciousness. So here is the example. Tears by force coming out. Krishna is going on. At the same time they want to check. There may not be any inauspicity for Krishna. They think of Krishna, for Krishna, not for personal self. Oh, I am now crying, I have become very much fortunate. I am crying for Krishna. No, my crying will create inauspicity to Krishna, I must check it. This is Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Chapter 10, page 531. Anyonyam,
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 Asit,
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 Sanjalpa,
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 Uttama,
Uttama.
Which one?
It's chapter 11, not chapter 10.
No. Why do you dictate? He's reading something. Why do you change it?
Text
What is that?
Page 531, Srila Prabhupada. Text number 20 of chapter 10. Uttama, Shloka, Chetasam, Karavendra, Pura, Strinam, Sarva, Shruti, Mano, Haraha, Anyonyam, Asit, Sanjalpa, Anyonyam, Asit, Sanjalpa, Anyonyam, Asit, Sanjalpa, Uttama, Shloka, Chetasam, Uttama Shloka Chetasam, Uttama Shloka Chetasam, Kauravendra, Pura, Strinam, Kauravendra, Pura, Strinam, Kauravendra, Pura, Strinam, Sarva, Shruti Mano Haraha Sarva Shruti Mano Haraha Sarva Shruti Mano Haraha Anyonyam Asit Sanjalpa Anyonyam Asit Sanjalpa Uttama Shloka Chetasam Uttama Shloka Chetasam Kauravendra Purastrinam Kauravendra Purastrinam Sarvashruti Manoharaha Sarvashruti Manoharaha Anyonyam Asit Sanjalpa Uttama Shloka Chetasam Kauravendra Purastrinam Sarvashruti Manoharaha
Others? Chanting and dancing in Banaras. So he criticized him that what kind of sannyasi he is. He does not take to the studies of Vedanta. He simply indulges in chanting and dancing with some sentimental people. He was criticized. So one devotee of Lord Chaitanya informed him that you are being criticized, sir. We cannot tolerate it, neither we can reply. He is a great Vedanti. So better we shall give up our life. Then the meeting was arranged between the Vedantis. Actually, Vedanta, Veda means the knowledge. Vitti Veda Vida Jnana. The big dhatu, those who know Sanskrit, dhatu, verbal form. So, there are different forms of one root. It's like the real root is big dhatu. Now, it is sometimes spoken as Beti. Sometimes it is called Vida. Sometimes it is called Binte. Sometimes it is called Bindati, Bindate. There are different forms of the same root, Vidha. So, which form should be used, the grammarians, they know it. Sanskrit language is very difficult language. One has to learn the grammar portion of it only for 12 years. Then he becomes expert grammarian. And when one becomes nice grammarian, he can read any literature, define department of knowledge, Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Yajurveda, Jyotirveda, so many Vedas. So real Vedas means knowledge. I have already explained. And I was in 1968 in London, in the Cornell Hall. That is published in Ishobi Kulashar. The Veda means knowledge. Vetti Veda, Vida Jnana. Jnana means knowledge. So, Veda Anta. Anta means end. There is everything of our material life has got a beginning and an end. So here in this material world, every one of us, we come here ignorant, like animals, no knowledge. There are so many varieties of living entities. Gradually, by evolution, we come to a human form of life. When our consciousness is developed, we can understand higher knowledge, and that is called Veda. So Veda does not mean it is meant for the cats and dogs. Vedas means knowledge. This knowledge is meant for the human Vedic. Therefore, Indian civilization, based on Vedic knowledge, is estimated so high. Perfect system of human society based on Vedic civilization. Everything is correctly reasoned. The ideas are given by persons who are above material contamination. Mukta Purush. Mukta Purush means one is not affected by the material incompetence. There are material incompetencies. We commit mistake, we are illusion, our senses are imperfect, and sometimes not always, we want to cheat. These are the defects of material knowledge. And one who is above this material incompetency is called Mukta Purush. So, one has to become Mukta Purush. That is called Vedic knowledge. And that is called Vedanta. Vedanta Sutra. Athato Brahma Jigyasa. So Vedanta means the ultimate platform of acquiring knowledge. Up to this. So that up to this is Krishna. That if you talk of Krishna consciousness, then you talk of all the Vedas, Sarva Sruti Manohar. You talk of Vedic knowledge, but if you simply talk of Vedic knowledge, it becomes dry, speculative. But if you talk of Krishna and Krishna's Leela, Krishna's pastimes, then it becomes simultaneously discussion of Vedic knowledge, at the same time very beautiful. Therefore, Krishna is described here, Uttama Slopa. Krishna is never described by ordinary verses. Uttama Sloka. Uttama Sloka means, Uttama means also liberated. Ut means transcendent. One who has crossed. Udgata. Ut means one who has gone the other side. Tama Tama means this dark. This world, this material world, just like it is dark. Therefore, the country or the part of the world which is always covered by darkness, already there is darkness. And if again that country does not get the facility of sunshine, it is considered that that country is condemned. It is Shastric ignorance. Any country which does not get the full facility of sunshine, it is to be considered condemned. I think I remarked this long ago when I first came to television. They asked me in London, what is your conception of hell? And this is hell, London. My conception, practically. Always dark, moist, drizzling, no sunshine, cloudy, misty, simple big building, that's all. So, there must be clear sunshine. So why this material world? Why this material world is called Tama? Because everyone is ignorant. He does not know what is the value of life. Everyone. In other words, all fools and rascals. Just like big scientists, they are theorizing that life is made out of matter. How much ignorance it is. All this Darwin theory, chemical evolution. Simply they are basing that from matter life has come. But where is the one gentleman in California University, he is Nobel Prize holder. He came to lecture. So our disciple, Srila Damodar, he is also doctor of chemistry. So, and the professor explained that from such and such chemicals combination life starts. He said, if I give you the chemicals, can you make life? In that big assembly, he has to reply, that I cannot say. So, what is the use of such knowledge? You are taking Nobel Prize, holding Nobel Prize on the basis of certain theorizing knowledge. And when you are challenged, now you produce these chemicals, you say that I cannot say. So this is life. Anyway, human life is meant for knowledge. That's fact. Therefore, athātha brahma jigyāsa. And what knowledge? Knowledge does not mean how to eat, how to sleep, how to have sex life, and how to defend. That is not knowledge. These things are there in the animal. The animals also know very well how to eat, how to sleep, how to have sex life, and how to defend. No, that is not. The human life is meant for different uses. And that is Brahma Jignasa. So Brahma Jignasa, if one begins the life of Brahma Jignasa, Brahma Jnana, and when it ends in understanding Krishna, that is perfection of life. That is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mang prapadyati. If one is actually jnanavan, in knowledge, such person, not so-called. There are two classes of men. One class of men is called Jnanavan, and another class of men is called Maya Apurita Jnana. All these words you will find in the Bhagavad Gita. This is not my memory. So Maya Apurita Jnana means he is rascal number one, but he is thinking that he is vastly learned. He has advanced his knowledge so much. Simply, he is puffed up falsely. That is called Maya Apurita Jnana. And Jnanavan means one who has actually knowledge. So what is the difference between the two? One who has got actually the knowledge and one who is simply falsely puffed up that he has got knowledge. What is how we find difference? That here is a man who has got real knowledge, and here is a man, rascal, but he is very much puffed up. So, it is very easy to find out, at least for us. That is a fact. This is our criteria. Just like you can find out the currency note, which one is genuine and which one is not genuine. There are some signs. This is an example. Similarly, our criterion is from the Bhagavad Gita, from Shastra, that we find these two verses in the Bhagavad Gita. What is this? The one thing is, Namang duskitanam mudha prapaddante naradhama maya apayutam jnana asuri bhava. The Rakhas Asuri Bhavamasita. Asuri Bhavamasita means one who does not accept the supremacy of God. What is God? I am God. I am God. These rascals are called Maya Apurita Jnana. Namam Prapaddante. They do not surrender to God or Krishna. They pose themselves as God. As soon as you find anyone does not surrender to Krishna, does not understand Krishna, he is just. Anyone, it doesn't matter. That is the first test. Then you come to the details. As soon as you find somebody that he does not understand what is God, or his relationship with God, or, and what is the ultimate object of life, he is a rascal. And as soon as we find somebody that he has surrendered to Krishna, Bhaunam janmanamante jnanavan manga prapaddate. How he has surrendered? Vasudeva sarvamiti. Vasudeva Krishna is everything. Actually, he is everything. This whole world is combination of two energies, material energy and spiritual energy. And Krishna is the source of two energies. Therefore, ultimate, Krishna is the cause of all karma. This is the summary study. Sarva karana karanam, Ishara parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadi Radi Govinda, Sarva karana karana. So, if we got, just like we are presenting so many books about Krishna, simply we are trying to explain Krishna. With all this translation, there's nothing but Krishna. How to understand Krishna? So, here it is called Sarvasuti Mano. Krishna is very pleasing to hear. Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure. When we get our attachment for hearing about Krishna, then at least we can consider that we have become free from material content. When we get attachment simply for hearing Krishna, nothing else, all nonsense, then we should understand that you have become liberated. These are the tests. Everyone can get this position because there is process. If you follow the process, then you come to the real stage. So, Adu Sandhya, Tato Sadhu Sangha. The beginning of this process is Siddha. Just like you have come here with a conception of faith that here is Krishna consciousness movement. Let us hear something about this movement. This is Sadhya, Adu Sadhya. This is the beginning. Unless one has faith or attachment, not attachment, faith only. Adu Sadhya, then you mix with the devotee. We are opening so many branches just to give opportunity to the people to mix with us, come with us. Radha Krishna valo sange chalo. Ei matra vikasa. We don't want anything from anyone. We don't want any political independence, social information, or humanitarian benefit. Nothing. We simply request people, please chant Hare Krishna and come with us. That's all. We don't expect anything from anybody else. This is our mission. Radha Krishna Vala Sangecha. You chant also, we are chanting on the street, Hare Krishna, you also join with us, Radha Krishna. And so long we go, we come with us. Ei matram hikkhachari. We don't want anything. This is not a business that we have come on the street to chant and to make some business. No. It is for your benefit. So, Krishna consciousness movement is a very important movement at the present moment. Not only at the present moment, but all the time, past, present and future. But at the present moment, the members of the international society, they have taken it very seriously to propagate this Krishna consciousness movement all over the world, and we are getting very good result. At least to our level, we are getting good result all over the world. There is no question of discouragement. So go on. This is our, therefore, uttama sloka chetasa. The heart must be always filled up with Krishna consciousness. That is called uttama sloka chetasa. So, in this way, go on with Krishna consciousness, this moment, everyone will be happy. Thank you.
All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees, for coming out to listen. This is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful information from both texts, text 14 and text 20. They were short texts. That's why this morning we took both of them, because we had enough time to fit in. We still have even time for comments and questions. So if you'd like to make some comment or whatever you want, realizations that you want to stress here, what got exciting to you or changed your life a little bit or your consciousness, you definitely can unmute yourself and do so. So anyone who'd like to start, please go ahead and do so. Vishnu, would you like to start?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Parikshit Prabhu, thank you.
Definitely.
Oh, there's a lot of things on the both lectures. So many comments could be made. I noticed that Srila Prabhupada used the word inauspicity. Inauspicity. And I think that's a word that Srila Prabhupada coined. I looked it up. I didn't find any. But you only find that Srila Prabhupada used that word, inauspicity. But so the ladies were crying, and he focused on it. The verse didn't say that they were in ecstasy, but he explained that there were tears of ecstasy. The verse said in anxiety, but he said there were ecstasy, and that emphasizing that we don't think, I'm meeting Krishna. He really went into detail about that, about the Goswamis saying, "Hey Radhe Vraja Devike," and that what is our qualification to meet Krishna? That really is. We're thinking in that way is important. I looked through all not today, but previously, I looked through all Prabhupada's lectures, and the bhajan that he quoted the most that I found, at least that those are available in the database, was the bhajan Hari Hari Vipale Janma Gunainu. This is Narottam Das Thakur says, "Oh my Lord," this is Narottam Das Thakur, our Acharya, great devotee of Lord Chaitanya. "I've wasted my life. Hari Hari Bipale. I've wasted my human, even though I've gotten this human form of Manusya Janma Paya, Radha Krishna Nambajiya. I've neglected to worship Radha Krishna. Janiya Shunya Bisha Kainu. And as a result, even though people warned me, and I knew it, still I knew it was poison, still I drank poison like that," he said. So Prabhupada quoted that most that I found. And even sometimes in our kirtans and bhajans and things, even though we've heard these Prabhupada's lectures like this, other things creep in. For example, there was a popular chant some time ago. I haven't heard it recently, but used to go Radhe 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 Shyam Se Milade. Have you heard that one before?
I think, yeah, somebody recorded it.
Yeah, it was quite popular in ISKCON maybe a few years back. But and the translation Shyam Se Milade. Oh, Radha Srimati Radharani, please introduce me to Krishna. I'm ready to get introduced to Krishna. But Prabhupada explained how this is that's not our mood in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, this Sampradaya. Different, some other Sampradayas it may be, but not this Sampradaya. So that's interesting. And he gave the example of Srila and Charybdis. Did you hear that one? Srila and Charybdis.
No.
Anybody know what that is? And talking about, on one hand, they were crying, but on the other hand, they wanted to control their tears because of They didn't want to create inauspicity.
Yeah.
So he gave the example of Scylla and Charybdis.
Okay. That was in the
I didn't know
beginning.
what that was. I had no idea what that was, but I looked it up, while there was a Greek myth of a strait where on one side was a man-eating monster and the other side was a whirlpool, a death, a powerful whirlpool. So to go through it, it's hard. It's a Greek myth
Mm,
so it's interesting. Prabhupada gave that example.
mm. Yeah, in the beginning, it talked very much about, thank you very much for the beginning, talking very much about
And
the two
he talked about
sides. Yeah.
the twinkling of an eye, the twinkling of an eye. And of course, nowadays we'd probably say blinking of an eye, but twinkling of an eye, that's also meaning just the blinking of an eye.
Hmm.
Just that blinking of an eye or twinkling of an eye seems like uh, 12 years because if one is separated from Krishna. So Srila
Yeah.
Prabhupada emphasized when we chant to try to, it's like the crying of a child for the mother's presence. That's the mood of our kirtan,
Mm,
chanting, crying
yeah.
for the mother's presence. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Yugaitam Nimishena Chakshapabhishaitam. Yeah, he did mention that. Rotitan is Chastika. Anyone else? If you have a question to ask, please unmute yourself and ask. And if you want to share some of the things that you picked up from the two lectures, feel free to do that also. Just unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please
Hare
accept my
Krishna.
apology. It's all good.
Chapman, go to the Prabhupada.
I have one takeaway and I also want to ask a question.
Mm,
Uh, so takeaway was like in the start of the second class, they were uh, they started chanting and like Prabhupada felt something is wrong and he's like correcting them. Even in the first class, he said we should learn Sanskrit. So he was like he didn't see if it is private or public, and he corrected devotees. And it was the humility of the devotees. They kept like they also heard him. It's not like, oh, like I shouldn't be hearing. So many times it happens that I am like we have like 10 people around us and get corrected, and like I feel like very bad about it. Like how can he correct me in the middle of the public? So sometimes we
okay.
get hurt. I get hurt. So that was one thing I realized that like I should take the chastisement in a nice way or correction in a nice way. So that was one takeaway, and I
Mm,
wanted to ask from the first class, Prabhupada is saying that our mood is of separation. But we also like when we start Krishna consciousness, many times we have seen or we also hear that Krishna is with us in our problems and difficulties. And so here Prabhupada is saying that we cannot see Krishna or uh, or with the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like he Chris we are like basically separated, and so we should serve him in that way. We should not be like, oh, we are talking to Krishna or like he is doing things with us like that. So how to understand these two aspects?
Mr. Galapu, would you like to take on this and just explain to him?
Well, I could say something. You're welcome to say something as well. I don't, separately, the mood of separation from Krishna intensifies the understanding and the presence of Krishna. It
Yeah.
makes Krishna's present in the thought of Krishna. He's absolute. And so that mood of separation from Krishna or the feeling of separation from Krishna intensifies one's Krishna consciousness. Krishna is
Mm,
there in that mood. That's how I understand it. Does that make
mm.
sense?
Absolutely. To me, it does, yeah. Because Krishna being absolute. When you think of Krishna, then Krishna is there. Yeah. Does that help, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, it does help.
Yeah.
How
Now,
to
as
like
far
keep
as,
ourselves
sorry.
from like thinking. Sometimes I also tend to like sometimes it happens that I will talk to deities in the temple or like sometimes it happens. So how to keep away from that kind of things?
I'm sorry, I didn't get can you just repeat or maybe rephrase it? 'Cause
Sometimes I tend to like, talking to the deities,
yeah,
and I don't think that's correct according to Prabhupada. So how should we like, um, like avoid that thing to happen?
talking to the deities.
Yeah.
Um, that's I've heard there are people who do that. But we have to understand, no matter what we do, that deities are for us to worship. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has said you approach the spiritual master and you inquire from the spiritual master. Therefore, questions, feelings, those things are directed towards the spiritual master. And while we're on the subject of the spiritual master, if the spiritual master is not immediately available because he's in another part of the world or has left the body, got to understand that the picture is just as potent as the actual person. So you can offer your obeisances to the picture of the spiritual master or to see the Prabhupada or both. And what you have to put in front of him, then you do that. And there's a whole story behind Chanamali Swami's speech on it, about how much devotees get help going to the Guru. So you can do that. But there are those who also come to the deity and not to ask for stuff, but express appreciation for the fact that we even have a deity at all. But it's Krishna's mercy. The deity is Krishna's mercy coming in a way that we can see him with these material eyes and be able to serve him is more important. Mm. And have kirtan to the deities and so on. So that appreciation is best to approach the deity with that kind of mindset. And as far as things being done, in terms of questions being answered, you approach Guru for that. And that's how Krishna wants us to do it. Approach Guru for that. Inquiring submissively and rendering service, which is in the Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna. Now, you also talked about, oh yeah, I don't know, somebody raised a hand?
Yeah, I was
Okay.
just thinking that as following what you said, Prabhu, that the attitude of when you approach the deities is very, I have no qualification, but I'm so fortunate. And at the end of Prabhupada's first lecture, he was saying that we have, that feeling that we have no qualification at all, but still somehow we have that opportunity to uh, serve or be there for
Yeah,
Krishna. When
yeah.
when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to go, it's mentioned in the Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava, he used to go to the Jagannath temple. He would follow Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's example, is he would stand by the Garuda Stamba, which was way in
Mm,
the back. Actually, and if you look at the Jagannath temple, there's a upper part by the deities where it's called the Jagamohan, where most of the people stand. But he wouldn't stand there; he would stay way kind of in the back. And
mm.
he said, the thought is that, oh, when the Lord Jagannath looks at his devotee of Garuda, then he might see me. When he looks at Garuda, he might see me.
Oh, okay.
So that
Right.
that that yeah,
Very humble approach.
yeah.
Very humble approach and very humble consciousness. And thank you, Prabhu, for bringing it out that when we stand in front of the deity, we should feel that we're not qualified. The fact is, we are not qualified. How does a prisoner in jail think that he's qualified to do anything? We put ourselves here. Should not forget that. We put ourselves here when we had everything in a very easy life of service in the spiritual world. So who are we now? If we had
Yeah.
any kind of connection, we broke it. And that's why we wound up here in the material world. So if
I,
he's come out of his mercy that we can see him like that, yeah, we should feel very fortunate and unqualified.
I was reading something yesterday by devotee Daivi Shakti, who
Mm,
my god sister, who she would clean Prabhupada's quarters, and that was her. She would try to stay as far away from Srila Prabhupada, not to disturb him and his other activities and stuff like that, and clean everything and do her service very nicely. And but then she started thinking, well, there's other devotees who are more intimate and close to Srila Prabhupada. They discuss and they sometimes joke with Srila Prabhupada. So she one day she tried to do that. She asked Srila Prabhupada kind of a question about this and that, and Prabhupada gave a response. No, he appreciates better her just service. That's all. Just the humble service that she does more than trying to be a friendly person with the spiritual master. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that also helps in our humility that you reminded that Sri Prabhupada told her that the posture at first that she had was actually the better posture, that he should remain servant like in the back.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that would apply also to in dealing with the deities, same kind of attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our devotees, he may be on the call now. Because I'll get to you in a second. I just want to make a comment. One of our devotees, new devotees, made a comment to me that when she comes close to the deities in Harrisburg, Gaurachandra, Sri Nitai Gaurachandra, that she only feels inclined to look at the lotus feet only and not even go up higher. And eventually, this is how we were told, you start from the lotus feet, but eventually you look up to the face of the deity. She just stays, her eyes stays on the lotus feet of, she should go Nitai or Nitai Gaurachandra. And I feel like that. I don't feel like I'm qualified to go even higher than looking at the deity, higher than the lotus feet, which I thought was quite interesting. I just wanted to throw that in. Anyway, we made some comments about it later. But not to hold everybody. Dear Krishna Prabhu, please mute yourself and go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All grace to Srila Prabhupada. When His Grace Vishnu Gada Prabhu just reminded me about Her Grace Devi Shakti Mataji, and I just remembered she gave a wonderful, very, very inspiring class recently when ISKCON Vrindavan celebrated 50 years of temple. And we watched in Reading, we watched it together, all the devotees, and it was so inspiring to. Maybe I can share that lecture to Mataji, and maybe one day, maybe if it works out for everyone, we can watch it together.
That'd be nice.
And second thing, His Grace Vishnu Gada Prabhu, for a wonderful point that was, I loved it, how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is thinking that maybe Lord Jagannath will see him as, by standing near Garuda Stamba as a devotee of Garuda. So very nice. Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing that. Hare Krishna.
Can you, for purposes of other devotees not knowing Sanskrit so well, explain the Garuda Stamba and give a sense of how the connection is with the layout in the Jagannath temple, if you can do that, because people get a better picture of why the Lord standing there.
That's a question for me, Prabhu?
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, if you know the answer.
Okay. Yeah, sure. From little what I know, as we all know, Garud Maharaj is a carrier, Vahan of Bhagwan Vishnu. So as a devotee, he's always standing in front of that main door, near that, and being ready for Lord's service whenever he needs to go anywhere. That's the mood he has, and guarding the door there. And it is in relation to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is also said because he used to take darshan of Lord Jagannath, and that is also a perfect spot where you can see only Jagannath's face right away from there. From distance, usually you can't see you can't see Jagannath or Subhadra or Baldev together, completely. But from that stump, you can see Jagannath's face directly. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to get so much ecstasy by taking darshan of Jagannath that still we can see the melted finger, stone of that stump, that pillar that used to get melt by the heat, by the ecstasy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Still, those fingerprints are there in that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I do not know if Mr. Gaddafi, would you wanted to add any more to it in this Garuda Stamba?
I I found a diagram of the Jagannath Puri temple one time, just about a month ago. If I find that diagram, it was quite interesting, and it's a little different now than the time of Lord Chaitanya. Also, the things are a little changed since then. But if I find it, I'll forward it to you,
Sure.
Parikshit
We,
Prabhu.
we can post it then, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I had another question about, I don't know if Dear Krishna Prabhu is finished or he has other things.
No, Prabhu, we are waiting to hear from you. Hare Krishna.
There was a little bit of a question about pronunciation of the Sanskrit.
Yeah.
You brought that up. And so there's some, Sarvanga Sundar, he brought it up. And on one hand, you have the example of the illiterate Brahmin in South India who was ordered by his spiritual master to read the Bhagavad Gita every day. But since he was illiterate, he couldn't do it properly. And people were laughing at him. But Lord Chaitanya came by and he asked him what he was doing. And finally, the Brahmin said, "Well, my spiritual master told me to do this every day, but I can't do it properly because I don't know. I can't say it properly." So Lord Chaitanya said, "So why are you crying?" So the Brahmin said, "Well, I look at the picture on the front of the book of Krishna taking the chariot, driving the chariot of Arjun, his devotee, and I become overwhelmed with ecstasy, thinking how wonderful it is that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, takes, even though he's the Supreme Lord, he's serving his devotee, and I become overwhelmed with joy like that." So in that case, it didn't appear that learning Sanskrit or chanting the Sanskrit accurately was very important. But on the other hand, Srila Prabhupada encouraged devotees to say the Sanskrit words properly and in kirtans and other things. So what do you make of those two? Is that a dilemma? That's a question for everybody.
Personally, I don't see it as a dilemma. For one of the reasons coming to me immediately has to do with that Brahmin that was illiterate. His spiritual master told him to read Bhagavad Gita every day. But we also know that when instructions are given by the spiritual master, there is Shakti in the instruction so that what's to be carried out would be carried out one way or another. And I deliberately put one way or another there because I know this Brahman is not going to be able to read the words, but still the appreciation was getting to him through the pictures. You could just see, the feeling, the emotions connected with Krishna consciousness through the pictures, which were in the book. So he was doing the pictorial reading there in one sense and connecting with Krishna in that way, so much so that, he was even in ecstasy, in tears. So that's one. Now the other part is, well, we're not illiterate. So Najita Papa has taken the trouble to write these, and we need to not just butcher it all the time. We need to learn the diacritics, which is the words. The what goes on top of the letters, and when you stretch the letters, and it also adds to the beauty of the language itself if we say it, with the right where we need to stress and where we need to shorten, and it makes the language comes alive more. So with the assumption when Prabhupada said Prabhupada that his disciples were not illiterate, then yeah, he could tell them to learn and learn properly. So that's what's coming to me.
Illiterate has two meanings.
Okay.
One meaning is you can't read at all. You can't read at all. Just like in every definition, if you go to dictionary, they have a first meaning, a second meaning, a third meaning, like that. So one meaning is that, and another meaning is that the person can't do it properly, can't do it properly. So it's not clarified exactly which of the two meanings of illiterate this
That's
Brahmin
true.
was, But
Yeah.
so he was doing it, in some way, because he was making words, he was making sounds because people were laughing at him. So it seems like it's the second way that he wasn't able to pronounce the Sanskrit accurately, as opposed to he couldn't do it at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, it says though that he was appreciating Krishna from the pictures.
Yes,
So,
of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that,
Those aren't exclusive. Yeah.
yeah, it's very nice. Actually, very nice.
So on one hand, also we see that when uh, the devotees were in India in Surat,
Mm,
and they were chanting like the Ishopanishad. Uh, it was
yeah.
Mother Koshalya, I think, and somebody criticized that she wasn't pronouncing it correctly. And
Mm,
Prabhupada, a guest, not one of the devotee Hare
yeah.
Krishna ISKCON, and Prabhupada chastised him, said, "She has 100 times more devotion than you for that." And
Yeah.
when Jayananda, there's a story about when Jayananda Prabhu got second initiation. So Srila Prabhupada called him in, and there was another devotee there, I forget who was there, but he tells the story. And Prabhupada gave him the mantras, and he gave him a little the paper with the mantra.
Paper. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and he tried to teach him how to say it, and Jayananda, really butchered it. And Prabhupada just broke out in a tremendous
Start
laugh.
laughing.
Yeah, and he said, "Just do the best you can." He said, "That's okay." He said, he just laughed. On the other hand,
Yeah.
there was a devotee named Akshobhya in Dallas, the Dallas Gurukul, and
Mm.
he instituted the Krishna Bowl. I don't know if anybody know of Krishna Bowl. Krishna Bowl was a game, like a like a Jeopardy, where they ask people questions and see who can
Oh,
answer faster. Yeah,
that's a nice one.
yeah. So Prabhupada heard about it, and he wrote Akshobhya. He said, "Why have you done this? Why have you done this? The first thing is people should learn is how to pronounce the Sanskrit properly. You don't. My disciples don't know how to pronounce Sanskrit. So on one hand, is that interesting? Both ways he goes. So what do you make of
Yeah.
that?
I've heard even something similar from Jayadvaita Swami. I know that doesn't answer the question directly, but Srila Prabhupada, he said that they had come to Canada and they were trying to, work hard to put temples together, arranging for that. And Srila Prabhupada was criticizing them that they are spending so much time on material things in terms
Ah,
of the logistics and so on, and they should spend more time, chanting, preaching, and so on. And then he came back a second time. This guy would Swami saying it. And he says that, when they gave him a report about their efforts in establishing temples and establishing centers, he said, very good, you should work hard for Krishna. The same
yeah,
person that said that you were doing too much on one side, on the other time. I actually didn't say it quite right, but the way that with this one, we all started laughing.
yeah.
It's like
The
the
two aren't
direct
exclusive.
opposite.
The two aren't
Yeah.
mutually exclusive, right? There's a
Mm,
devotee who Prabhupada came through, and Prabhupada encouraged him, take as much prasadam as you like, eat up, take prasadam up to your neck. And then the
mm,
next time Prabhupada came through, or maybe 2 years later, Prabhupada told him to just take prasadam to keep body and soul together. And the devotee
mm.
objected. He said, "Oh, but you told me before to take as much as I want to the up to." And Prabhupada said, "You followed me then, follow me now." Yeah, follow me then. So that
Yeah,
there's not necessarily a contradiction there. And so
yeah,
as far as the chanting of the Sanskrit words properly, by chanting the Sanskrit words properly, that's not gonna be the key to your going back to Godhead. Krishna says, "Naham Veda na tapasa na dani na nachejya." But even someone who doesn't get it all right, they can still go back to Godhead if they try to please the spiritual master. But Part of the if Srila Prabhupada would want it, we can try to improve. We may not do it all right, but we can still try to improve if he wants us, if Srila Prabhupada wants us to. And he made it clear that he did want us to, but that's not the main thing of our lives at all.
Thank you very much for the explanation. Any other comments?
Hare
If
Krishna,
not,
please accept, please accept my humble obeisance to Prabhupada. I have a question, if I could ask this question of Vishwagata Prabhu. Prabhu, you mentioned in one of your feedback just now about some, of a bhajan of Radharani that was kind of common in ISKCON a few years back, and that wasn't what Prabhupada taught us. So my question, Prabhu, is that with so much different kinds of, bhajans and introduction of different ethnic backgrounds and whatever in this one that's happening, sometimes we don't know, especially with the new devotees, who are and who just follow blindly, and sometimes we have a lot of blind follow the blind because the blind did it kind of a thing. And I'm having a hunch that it goes back to us not really reading and understanding Srila Prabhupada's instructions. But it's just becoming so, it's getting more and more of an issue, Prabhu. How can we really, check ourselves that we are not following the blind because it's a Krishna bhajan or a Radharani bhajan or a Chaitanya bhajan or whatever bhajan it is. But, and that it's not what Prabhupada taught us. I mean, I don't know if I'm making sense, but I'm just thinking because I see a lot of this mix thing, that happens.
Yeah.
And so how can we really, like check, because especially the whole, because it's from Vrindavan, it's the Brajabasis, it's the Sampradaya, so it's legit. It's from, this part of Navadvip, it's legit, or whatever. But Prabhupada never said that, it's almost like this going back to the Gopi Gita Bhava thing that they had few years, like years ago, Prabhupada, that it was shut down. So how can we really, watch ourselves and be on, like really be careful, Prabhu?
Well, the first thing is, as you're saying, it's wonderful that you think this way, because to be that shows that one cares about it, and it's not just that anything goes. That's important, because there's a verse, as you know, Sampradaya Vihinaye Mantraste Nishpala Mata. And actually, there's two meanings of that verse. Srila Prabhupada would quote that verse. It's from the Padma Purana. And that has one meaning is that if you're not initiated in the Sampradaya, that your chanting has no effect. And the other meaning that Srila Prabhupada says is, if you didn't receive your mantra through the Sampradaya, means through your spiritual master, then it will have no effect. You follow?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Prabhu.
So, and there's another verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Etanya vidyamananam ichtatam akatobayam yoginam ripinirnitam haranam anukirtanam. That the doubtless and fearless way of success is to chant for everybody, is to chant the holy names of the Lord, following the ways of the great authorities. So we have to be cautious about, as you're bringing up, it's a really important point, because over time things get deviated, things get changed, other things are introduced, and they may be helpful. But if you really want to be sure, the way to be really sure is to simply follow what we've been given by Srila Prabhupada. So I was either fortunate or unfortunate. I joined the Hare Krishna movement in 1971, and I remember, in like around 1973, other different chants were introduced that Srila Prabhupada never chanted. I know that. And I was thinking, I thought at the time, oh, cool. That's cool. That's cool. I didn't even think, because in those days, as you're saying, I was a follower. It must be okay. It must be okay, because so-and-so devotee who is a sannyasi or an older devotee does it. Therefore, I should do it. It's okay for me to do it. But, in my older age that I really have really tried to think about. I really want to do things as a representative of ISKCON, as a representative of Srila Prabhupada, do things the way he did it. How did Srila Prabhupada do things? And that is going to have the most potency and the most benefit for me and for others. And I have to study. I want to study that and take it into account as much as possible. So one thing I did was, Prabhupadvani.org.
Yes, Prabhu.
So on Prabhupadvani.org, there's 31 recordings of Srila Prabhupada chanting Hare Krishna Kirtan. 31. And there's 8 recordings of devotees chanting Hare Krishna Kirtan with Prabhupada present.
Ah.
So I analyzed those 31 recordings and 8 recordings to see how he did it. That's not the only recordings that exist, but it's a good sample if you follow, right? There are many of them are early. So we can study that and see how Srila Prabhupada did, how he chanted, and try to, and it's not that we have to imitate exactly how he did everything, no, but try to understand how he did things and perhaps discuss about things. That's a wonderful, I think it's a valuable, I'll just say, a valuable approach to the question that you're posing. And one can make a case for example, according to a particular setting, a particular environment of chanting other kinds of things that Srila Prabhupada didn't. For example, Srila Prabhupada encouraged George Harrison to write songs about Krishna, right?
Yes.
And he encouraged Mangalananda Prabhu, my godbrother, to write songs and produce songs about, Oh Govinda in my heart, celestial herdsman, lotus-eyed one. You know that one? Anyway.
Michael Cassidy, right, I think?
What's that?
His name was Michael Cassidy, Prabhu?
Yes. Yeah, but those weren't for chanting in the temple for the regulars, or we didn't chant that on Harinam Sankirtan, right? Those were for kind of outside people, right? For the general public, people who don't know about Krishna. So, you can make some adjustment a little bit. That's understand. Of course, on the other hand, when Srila Prabhupada went anywhere, what did he chant?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. That's it. Nothing. He did actually about 39% of his kirtans that are recorded there. He started with Vandeham. Vandeham before chanting.
Heard that.
Before chanting Hare Krishna. So anyway, but primarily he was chanting Hare Krishna, and of course he chanted. There are many bhajans that he chanted. When he just a couple of little things in analyzing Srila Prabhupada's kirtan, there was only one instance in those 31 that he started chanting another mantra after she began chanting Hare Krishna. Only one out of 31. And you know what that other? So in other words, once he started chanting Hare Krishna, that's all he did. He didn't chant, anything else at the end. No deity names, no nothing at the end. And the only one instance was the only thing was he chanted. He started chanting Krishna, 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 hey, that one, and the Rama Raghava, in one of them. That's all. That's the only one that I found. You follow?
Yeah.
So it's not that you can't or anything like that, but that's how Prabhupada did it. And he so anyway, to think about it and talk about it and try to understand it is a wonderful approach, I think, to because over time things do change. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sakalene hamohata yogo nashta parantam. Over time, the things change and the whole idea gets lost, and that hopefully won't happen in ISKCON. But I thank you for asking that question.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's just been on my mind for some time, and I was just, like small things, anything from DT service to, bhajans to even Vaishnav etiquette to even reading, to even hearing lectures, to which lectures from which sampradaya, like, the small things, but the small things really make a big difference. So I was just, really thinking, wow, it's getting crazy.
I'll give you an example. I was talking to my godbrother Bhima Prabhu. You know Bhima, he's my friend. He's
Yes.
Bombay BBT. So he was talking about, there's this they put the feet on your head that's kind of like a helmet thing that they put on your head it's got the lotus feet of the Lord on top.
That's what they do in Mayapur, I think, with Lord Nrsingadev, right? That one,
Yeah,
Prabhu?
Lord, they do it
Yes.
many places now, many places now. So he was saying that is not our part of our sampradaya. That's the Ramanuja or Sri Sampradaya, and Srila Prabhupada never introduced that. And so he was going saying that why are we doing this? Anyway, and he's saying just because it's being done in Mayapur doesn't mean that necessarily is the right way to do things. As you know, perhaps Mayapur, there was a method or a practice of showing Srimati Radharani's lotus feet on
Radhastami.
Radhamashtami, yeah. And so, well, they said, everybody said, well, they're doing it in Mayapur, so it must be okay. Or they do it in Vrindavan. Well, then there was this whole thing. The Shastric Advisory Council examined it and researched it, and they put out a whole paper that actually Srila Prabhupada said, no, don't do that. That's what
Yes,
their
that's
conclusion
right.
was.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it behooves us as like you're a senior devotee or to be cautious. And on the other hand, not to one can't be a fault finder. That's another danger. You remember there's a devotee, uh, Pundarik Vidyanidhi. Pundarik Vidyanidhi was the spiritual master of Gadadhar Pandit. Spiritual master, how advanced is that, right? Spiritual master. And he went into the Jagannath temple and he noticed that they're putting starched cloth chadars on Lord Jagannath at Odana Shashti. And so in his mind, he thought, hey, they're not supposed to do that. Not supposed to put starched cloth, which was true. It's a fact. They're not supposed to. It was true. But just because he had a critical attitude in his mind, Lord Jagannath in his dream came and slapped him, gave him a good slapping. So, and who's that? That's the spiritual master of Gadadhar Pandit getting slapped by Lord Jagannath. Yeah, but because of, I mean, and it was correct. It was true. It was right. They were making a mistake. So anyway, all these things are there. But so from our side, we just need to be try to represent Srila Prabhupada and ISKCON in the best way we can, and that we know as. And people may do other things, and one should just be cautious, very cautious about that, because we don't know where that's going. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, Prabhu. Thank you so much. In fact, Prabhu, as you were speaking, I was even thinking about this not concept, the principle of submissive inquiry. When we see something that is not a practice that is done in ISKCON, then we should submissively inquire from senior devotees and spiritual masters, what is right and what is wrong, rather than blindly following because we think, oh, she's senior, so I'll just do what she does. And it's just like blind, because it's so common nowadays, Prabhu. I mean, it really is.
There's a thing called Simon Says. Remember Simon Says?
Yes. Oh, yes. I remember that game.
Simon Says, Prabhupada says this, or somebody says this.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
For years and years, there's, the Tulsi, when the Tulsi pranams, Vrindai, Tulsi Devi, Priyaye, Kesavasya Cha. What's the next line? What's the next line?
Vishnu Bhakti Pradadevi.
Yeah. So some people say Krishna Bhakti
Krishna.
Pradadevi.
Yes.
Yeah. Some people say Vishnu Bhakti. What is it? What does it matter?
It's Vishnu Bhakti Pradadevi.
Yeah, well,
Chandramauli Swami made a comment about it that
who did?
Prabhupada did not say.
Yeah.
He didn't say Krishna Bhakti. Yeah.
Chandramauli Swami.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, here's a little added information about it. So when Prabhupada wrote the letter giving us this mantra, it was Vishnu Bhakti, okay?
Yes.
So then in 1972, Achyutananda Swami compiled the first Vaishnava songbook, and it was printed by the BBT, and it was sent out to everybody. And in the Vaishnava songbook, it says Krishna Bhakti Pradidevi. So then, since 1972, it's been, some people say Krishna, some people say Vishnu. So I don't know. So then, if I ever see, I don't know which is correct. I know for sure Prabhupada wrote the Vishnu Bhakti initially, but perhaps Achyutananda Swami asked Srila Prabhupada, is it okay to change it to Krishna Bhakti? I don't know that. I don't know. Maybe he did, just like you're saying. A request, humble inquiry, right?
Submissive inquiry, yes, Prabhu. Yes.
He could have asked him. He could have asked him. I don't know that, but at least for sure I know that the initial one was Vishnu Bhakti. Anyway.
Yeah, Chandramani Swami corrected me way back. This was probably, I would say, in the 90s in Gita Nagari. And since then, I've always said Vishnu Bhakti. Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much
Prabhu. Thank you so much. I really
for the
appreciate this,
discussion.
Prabhu.
Yeah.
Vishnu Bhakti, and so anyway, and there's the story of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and he wanted to change it from Mukti Pade Chadaya Bhak to Bhakti Pade Chadaya Bhak because Mukti had too many negative connotations in his mind. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, you cannot change. You cannot change.
Yeah.
So anyway, the initial letter was Vishnu Bhakti, and there's a lot of things like that in that. I mean, I'll give you another one, okay? These are things I've been thinking about. Srila Prabhupada wrote 7 letters in the early part of the movement about how to observe Gaur Purnima. In those 7 letters, he said we should fast until moonrise, and they take Ekadashi Prasadam. Maybe you know this.
I think you wrote about it sometime back.
Yeah, I wrote about it. Yeah. Anyway, they rejected that. I sent it to. I didn't tell you this. So I sent it to the what do you call that? Dandavats.com, and they rejected it. That's just your opinion. They said because they asked one of Prabhupada's servants who wrote in his book. It said Prabhupada said he observed on 1976. He observed Gaur Purnima by taking Ekadashi Prasadam, but said it wasn't compulsory. You can read it in the book there. Okay. So I thought, okay. Well, there's Prabhupada's instruction, but there's Prabhupada's example. So he's saying, this example was, he said it wasn't compulsory. So, but then I downloaded a copy of the same book, a digital copy, and in that downloaded copy, it said, Prabhupada said, we should observe it by he took Ekadashi Prasadam, saying it's not compulsory, and then highlighted compulsory meaning it's not required to take any prasadam at all.
Oh, okay.
So is that the same meaning as just saying compulsory?
No.
So, but the first meaning is the one that's promulgated by many people in ISKCON.
Sometimes there's this ambiguity that comes from how things get interpreted.
There's 7 letters that Prabhupada wrote saying seven. In the early days we didn't even have those. So why did he write those 7 letters saying to observe by taking Ekadashi Prasadam, having a feast next day? Why did he do that? If it's just you can do whatever. Well, it doesn't matter if you observe it or not. It doesn't matter. You can have. If you want to have a cake, you can have a cake. Why would you restrict yourself from a cake, right? If it doesn't matter, if it's not compulsory, then why would you restrict yourself? It doesn't make sense. So anyway, but the reason it's important to me is because I was a cook in ISKCON early. That was my service. And if you're a cook, you got to know what to do. You can't. It's not just doesn't matter. You have to know what to make for the devotees and for Krishna, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. Anyway, that's my thing.
Yes.
Thank you very much for all of these the subtle points, but important points. So
very insightful.
Yeah. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, so it's a little late now, so we're going to end it.
Yes, 9:37. My God, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Hare
that's
Krishna.
okay. It's okay.
Please
We
don't
learn.
apologize, Prabhu. Please don't apologize. It's very
Th-
insightful.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. I mean,
Hare
I
Krishna.
have missed my meeting that I will be late to because of this
I
wonderful,
apologize for
wonderful
that. Yeah.
conversation. Thank you
Okay.
so much for
Hare Krishna.
so much clarification.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vanchakapatarubyascha
Nibhishcha
kripa
kripa sindhubhyevacha
sindhubhyevacha
patitanam
patitanam
pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo
pavanebhyo
namaha.
namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Hare Krishna.